Welcome back to The Big Hit on IUP-TV, everyone. My name is Elliot Hicks, and we are back. It's our first episode since the COVID-19 pandemic. We are all masked up. We're trying to distance as much as possible, and we're extremely happy to be back in the studio bringing you content for as long as they let us keep filming in here. We're so happy to be back on your television sets, and we hope you enjoy this week's show.
Hello, folks, and welcome to The Big Hit. Join me for our fantasy football segment is our very own Joey Chrisman.
What's up, guys? And I must say, it is great to be back.
It is week 4 of the 2020 NFL season, and fantasy football is in full swing. With it being so important that people get a good start with the season, Joey is going to help us with start-sit for week 4.
Let's get started.
The Cincinnati Bengals have some fantastic receivers, Joey. But if you had to pick one, who would you start?
Well, the obvious answer is Tyler Boyd, who is ranked 13 at his position. He also averaged 20 points for the past 2 weeks. Now, if you're like me, you're pretty optimistic about A.J. Green coming back and returning as the #1 receiver for the Bengals, but I've yet to see that version of him, so you got to go with Tyler Boyd.
Speaking of the Bengals, and the hot topic for this season is Joe Burrow, #1 overall pick in the draft. Do you start or sit Joe Burrow in week 4, Joey?
I think you should start him, despite the Bengals and the Eagles tying and him having an extra quarter to play. He threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against a defense that ranks 7th in the league for passing yards allowed. This week they face off against Jacksonville, whose defense is ranked 19th in the league for passing yards allowed. This could be an opportunity for the Bengals to get their first win, but I definitely think that Joe Burrow will have a really good game.
The last AFC North player, James Conner, has been the heated topic when it comes to Steelers' backfield. Joey, start or sit?
I think you should start him. I mean, the Titans' defense hasn't been very good against the run, allowing 166 yards and touchdowns per game. James Conner, on the other hand, has over 202 touchdowns on the season. He had 24.9 points in the form of 18 attempts for 109 yards and a touchdown against the worst-ranked run defense in the league. I see him getting around the same amount of points if or when they face the Titans.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, their defense is lights out. Pass or run, they stop it all. What happens when an unstoppable force like Derrick Henry meets an immovable object like the Steelers' defense? Joey, start or sit?
Now, this might be a hot take, but I'm going to have to say sit. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is ranked the #1 against the run, averaging 50 yards a game. If you remember correctly, the Steelers completely shut down Saquon Barkley. Ben Roethlisberger had more rushing yards than he did. And yes, Derrick Henry is leading the league with 319 rushing yards, but he got those yards on 82 carries. If you do the math, that's 3.9 yards per carry, which ranks 34th in the NFL. On top of that, I think the Titans are going to attack the Pittsburgh secondary, limiting the amount of carries for Henry. So I don't think it's going to be a good week for him. Going to have to go sit.
Another fantastic star in the AFC is the Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen, who will be traveling to Las Vegas. Joey, start or sit Josh Allen?
Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. He's throwing for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns on the year already, and he only has 1 interception. I do not think it's going to be any different in Vegas. You got to start him.
Now let's take a walk on the NFC side, Joey. Ezekiel Elliott has been the workhorse for the Cowboys for a long time, but that may change with the boys in blue going up against the Dog Pound in week 4. Joey, do you start Zeke?
I feel like you should start Zeke, but not because he's going to run all over the Browns, because the Browns have been pretty good against the run this year. If you look back at week 1 when they played Baltimore, they only allowed 111 yards rushing, but that was a combination of players running the ball. I think Zeke will find the most success in the passing game. So do I think you should start Zeke? Yeah.
Another rising NFC star is Allen Robinson, a receiver for the Bears. Joey, do you start or sit Allen Robinson?
Now, I wouldn't call Robinson a rising star. Yes, he had a good game last week, but that was because he was against one of the worst pass defenses in the league and a team who chokes like it's their day job. On the year, he only has 230 yards receiving and 1 touchdown, ranking 19th at his position. This week, they're going against one of the best pass defenses, the Indianapolis Colts. It is not going to be a good week for him, even with Nick Foles. Gotta set him.
Staying in the NFC, a huge talking point and one that I am really interested in hearing is your thoughts, Joey, on Tom Brady. The GOAT struggled in week 1 and hopes to rebound with a game against a pretty good Chargers team. Joey, do you start or sit the GOAT, Tom Brady?
Now, this for me is a tough one because Tom Brady is obviously way past his prime, but he can still throw football. He had a bounce-back week, throwing for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Broncos defense, who isn't that good against the pass. The Chargers defense, they rank 8th against the pass. When it comes to getting those fantasy points, I think you're better off going with someone else than Tom Brady.
Another star quarterback, whose name I am sure you know, Joey, is Deshaun Watson. This player and his team have struggled a bit this season, but I want to know your opinion. Start or sit?
I just want to start off with saying that we knew who won this DeAndre Hopkins trade back in the spring. Deshaun Watson has no go-to guy to throw the ball to, and that shows from their 0-3 record. He has a quarterback rating of 61.6% with 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the season. This is obviously not the MVP contender we all thought he was going to be. You have to sit him.
And that's all for fantasy sports. But don't go anywhere, as we have more fantastic sports segments up next on IUP-TV's The Big Hit.
And welcome back to The Big Hit. I'm your host / firefighter, Josh is making sure Hot Take Jake doesn't get too hot talking about NHL. But before we get into that, special congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think we can both agree it's been a long time coming. Jake, how do you think about that?
I don't know if you watched my segment with Mike Costa and Katie Dotz. I believe it was after they got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I was hot about them. I was hot and bothered that they got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets all those years back. You know, they've been choking Jabroni, John Cooper. I said it once, I'll say it again, I'll say it to the day I die, I don't even care. His team was so loaded, it was a shame. It would have been a complete and utter, it would have been an even bigger choke than it was last year if they lost the Stanley Cup, I'll tell you that.
All right, but before we get to the grandest stage of them all, first, we need to talk about this playing rounds. What do you think? Did the puck bounce the right way, do you think?
See, the playing rounds was hard to judge because it was so new, so fresh, it was so rare. The fact that they were in a bubble, you know, 2 teams, one in Edmonton, one in Toronto, the East in Toronto, the West in Edmonton. But I wouldn't say there were upsets that first round, the first playing round, but it wasn't the other team wanting it more. I think the big guns choked through and through, completely, 100%. They choked. The Edmonton Oilers, you know, you have the MVP, Leon Draisaitl. Somehow he's the MVP, although Connor McDavid's hailed as the best in the game, but he's on the same team. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I don't get it. Regardless, they get beat by the Chicago Blackhawks. You know what that shows? It shows veteran leadership right there. McDavid still doesn't have it in him. He doesn't have it in him to lead a team like that to go far. If you can't beat one of the worst teams in the playing rounds, you suck. Go on the other end, or the other town in Toronto. Pittsburgh Penguins got upset by the Montreal Canadiens. It kind of seemed like Pittsburgh didn't want to be there. Pittsburgh's the type of team who said before they were pushing to extend the playing round, first it was best of 3, then they made it best of 5, and they were still kind of complaining. They're like, Carey Price is the type of goaltender, type of player that can steal a series. Clearly he did. Pittsburgh's throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him, and he's making all the saves. You know, the team rallies around, they win, they get slaughtered in the next round. No big deal. But I don't think Pittsburgh really wanted to be there that bad. They've been to the dance. They're the best team in the NHL. They're the best franchise in sports, in American sports. I think they do all things right. It was clear that they didn't want to be there. Another sweep, a little upset Toronto. If you have that loaded of a roster, you should not lose to a team like the Columbus Blue Jackets. They wanted them more to sort of relic and fire the boys better, through and through. A little bit upsetting in the first round.
Yeah, you know, like the bubble, I feel was more of like just a whole new experience. It wasn't about who the better team was. It was first who can adjust the best to be in that environment. It's basically a whole new season too. A lot could happen in those first few games, but first 2 rounds, it's a different story. Teams are getting accustomed to what the environment's like, how it's like to play with no fans. So what do you think happened in those first 2 rounds now that everyone's a little more comfortable, if you will, in the bubble?
Yeah, that's a good point, Josh. And I think you look at it like this. I think the players and the people, the teams that didn't do too well were the veterans who didn't want it as much. When I say don't want it as much, a lot of these NHL players, you have to remember, these guys through and through, let's give credit to every single person there. They're up and leaving their families. They're leaving everything behind to go and stay in a hotel with all these guys. Think about nothing but hockey. They can't do anything but play. So power to the NHL and the players for getting this all done and set during these tough times, which is great. Regardless, though, I think players are humans and they have families, so they usually plan to have children in the off season. So they were having children when the off season came around, when the off season would have came around, and they're stuck at home, so they're building with their families and they're growing. And a lot of them did have newborn children, which you can kind of tell the guys that are like, I want to go home, I want to deal with my family, a little bit more important than hockey at the moment, especially during the pandemic, obviously. So I think the guys. And those rounds were they were the players. Both teams are obviously going through their own hardships, but the teams that were winning were the teams that wanted it more. I know there's a lot of young, loaded teams, like say the first round, Nashville Predators got swept. That's a culture of choking in there in Tennessee. I mean, but I think they thought, oh, we have talent, we can come in here, we can coach, we can win. And these young guys are like, this is once in a lifetime. We normally wouldn't have this good of a shot at the cup. Let's go, let's try. Especially in the playing rounds, it was seeded. Boston Bruins, they won the President's Trophy. They come in, they get reseeded. So normally they'd be number one. They got reseeded to the 4th seed because they didn't play very well in the playing rounds. Well, I wonder why. They're the best team in the league coming in here. They're like, oh, we can walk all these guys. No, that's not the case. So first 2 rounds, I think we saw a lot of good hockey. I know. The best hockey we saw, the most upsetting part about the first rounds had to be the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche should have won the Stanley Cup. I mean, at least been represented the West in the final. They were going toe for toe with the eventual Western Conference champs, Dallas Stars, and took Game 7, overtime, heartbreaker. Kiviranta with the GWG. Say that 3 times fast. Kiviranta.
I can't do it.
Exactly. That's why these guys are getting paid the big bucks to announce these game-winning goals. But 7 starters for the Colorado Avalanche were out. Their goalie, their backup goalie, alternate captain, Gabe Landeskog, the captain, didn't even play the last game, Game 7. I mean, that's just going to hurt your team. They should have been there. Dallas didn't deserve it the whole time. You saw it. They should have got swept in the final. They got lucky. Jeez Louise, I'm getting fired up about this whole Dallas Stars team. Just one of those teams that I think should have been there. Just like Vegas those few years ago. Sorry, Elliot, I know you called it. But all those years ago, Vegas should have made it there. They just got hot. They just got lucky. These teams that should have made it there, it's clear they should have made it there. They get slaughtered in the Stanley Cup final, and that's what ended up happening. Unfortunately for the Colorado Avalanche, they lost that big upset. But I mean, other teams saw a lot of positivity. I mean, other teams that wouldn't necessarily get the chance if this was a normal playoff setting with home ice advantage. I know, say the Islanders 1-4 because their home fans suck. Sorry about it. I'm really not. Like, if you're an Islanders fan, they go and arena to arena. It's fugazi. They're putting out decent quality. You got a good coach. Hop on the wagon. Why don't you? One good run ever. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad I didn't have to bring out the fire extinguisher for that one, because you're getting pretty hot. We still have a lot more hockey to cover. Okay, conference finals. You can't use the bubble as excuse for bad bounces. You can't use fans as excuse for bad bounces. You know the deal. Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it, Josh. I couldn't have said it any better myself. The conference final, it was unfortunate. Because like I said, the Islanders, I mean, they were tough. They were gritty. They fought through adversity. But they're a bunch of washed-up old guys on one team together. They were just fighting because they've been to the dance, they've been to the playoffs before. They could never get over the hump. All these guys coming from different teams. I know Andy Green captained the New Jersey Devils for as long as I can remember. So all these old guys are on this team. They're rallying up, but no, you're going to get smoked by the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't care what it is. You're getting smoked by the Tampa Bay Lightning. They came in Game 1. I have never seen this in all my years watching hockey. Josh, Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, the Tampa Bay Lightning didn't miss the net until the last 60 seconds of the game. Now, that is 100% pure efficiency. They beat them 8-2, mind you, too. Not a big deal. You ever hear 8 goals in the Eastern Conference Final? Nope. Penguins did score 7 against Ottawa Senators. Not a big deal either. But the freaking Tampa Bay Lightning, they were rolling all lines. You can't go into a team when their third line is better than your first line. I can't possibly think of the mindset like, oh, yeah, we're going to come out here and get this win. I mean, this is the league, though. I mean, these guys deserve to be out on the ice. They deserve to fight for every inch. But when you're playing a team that loaded, they didn't really stand a chance. They were in. They got a few lucky bounces, won a game in overtime. Whatever. Tampa made easy work of them. On the other side, actually the same arena, the conference final and final both played in Edmonton, by the way. However, Dallas versus Vegas. Vegas is clearly the better team. Vegas, at the end of the second round, was playing the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver Canucks came from 3-1 down. Thatcher Demko came in net playing on his head. He had a 0.64 goals against average. That is unheard of in the NHL. A young guy, second year in the league, coming in here standing on his head like that. You even heard after Peter Dubois, coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, was coach of the San Jose Sharks, beat you in the Stanley Cup final. Ha ha ha. Pittsburgh Penguins did it, 2016. Anyway, he doesn't know how to coach a championship caliber team. It's clear. I don't know why they hired him, regardless of the fact he was going back and forth. Am I going to play Robin Lehner? Am I going to play Marc-Andre Fleury? Pick a damn goalie and run with it. When he can't play, he can't play. It's so much in the locker room here. And Thatcher Demko on the other side of the puck is saving every single. It is literally no goalie's ever played a better three stretch of games in NHL history. No, they just haven't. And at the end, they go into the play a hot goalie in Dallas in the conference final, and they just couldn't put the biscuit in the basket. They couldn't put the puck top shelf. Mama hides the cookies. They just couldn't find it. And at the end, Peter DeBoer was like, "Oh, maybe Thatcher Demko kind of stole our confidence scoring wise. They're trying, they were gripping the stick a little bit too tight." Oh, I've done that a time or two. They try to pass it before they shot it. They were just all over the place. Confidence completely rattled. And Antoine Khudobin, what another name. These guys got the best names. Antoine Khudobin on fire for Dallas, and it rattled the Vegas Golden Knights. They couldn't get it done. They just didn't have what it took. They just didn't have what it took. Sometimes you just gotta have what it takes, and they just did it. They choked. I mean, Dallas wanted it more, was clear, got a few good bounces, but other way, Khudobin standing on his head, Vegas rattled, DeBoer coach, sorry.
Well, steamrolling right ahead. Dare I mention the Stanley Cup Finals, the day every player is dreaming of when you see little Stevie Stamkos playing his backyard as a little 5-year-old. I'm gonna get in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. I'm gonna have the Indiana Fire Department on speed dial just in case you get a little too hot and blow the entire studio to flames.
All right. You know what? I feel safe when I'm with you, though, Josh. So nobody has anything here in the studio has anything to worry about. The finals, what could have been? If it was Colorado, it would have been amazing. If it was Vegas, it would have been good. But it was the Dallas Stars. Come on, first of all, your jersey shouldn't be green. You're just bad to look at in first glance when you're looking on the ice. And your two best players you just picked up over the offseason, your captain, Jamie Benn, coach, and your best player's a second-year defenseman. Jesus Louise, he's 22 years old, and he's leading the team. You went to the Stanley Cup final with a negative goal differential. That's almost impossible to win all those games, but let in more goals than you score. How does that happen? Oh, my goodness. When you look over at Tampa Bay, you can't be a Dallas Stars player. I don't even care if you're playing the NHL. I don't care how long you've been playing. You're sitting there and you're looking over and you see Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, Mikhail Sergachev, Bogosian on the defensive end. I'm not even naming the other two. I can't even do it. I can't even think that fast. Stamkos was on the bench though, which kind of soft. I mean, he's missed every big game in his career. I'm not. It takes a lot to captain the team when you're not playing. So God bless him. But you have your first lines: Andre Palat, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov. They finished Kucherov 35 points in a playoff run. That's the most since the 1990s. Braden Point, 33 points. That's the second most since the 1990s. Like, they, on the same line, absolutely tearing apart. Then you go to the second line with the Sorelli, Johnson, Killorn, that's OP. Third line, they just bought into the trade deadline. I know most people forget because COVID happened, but at the trade deadline, Tampa Bay traded a first-round pick to the New Jersey Devils for Blake Coleman, and they traded a first-round pick to the San Jose Sharks for Barclay Goodrow. They straight up said, here's our future, show me the money because we're about to win the cup. And they fully bought in. It was clear. It was evident. It should have been a sweep. Dallas gets in there. They stay in there. I mean, geez Louise. They won the first game. They come out hot the first period, score a few unexpected goals, and then Tampa dominates from there on out. Khudobin standing on his head. Should have been Conn Smythe. Would have won Conn Smythe if Dallas would have won the goalie because Ben Bishop was hurt, so Khudobin came in. However, they just got routed. They won the first game. Should have won. Tampa wins. What do? They can seal it out. Game 5. The game goes into double overtime. The first overtime, the Dallas Stars don't register a shot in overtime. That is pure domination. You still win the game. I mean, let's rewind though too. I want to look out here because you're getting me hot. Like you said, you got to get the fire department on.
I'm waiting to press the button.
Good. Because these refs. Oh my God, they suck. They are bringing everything away from hockey that everybody that loves hockey likes. They're bringing away big hits. I know this is the big hit. They're bringing away big hits. I know you guys are all going to be pissed off when you hear that. They're taking out of the big hits. They're calling penalties off the chippiest little rinky-dink soft. Like, you listen. This ain't field hockey. This is ice hockey. This is men's NHL. This is the league. This is where you can drop the gloves and beat the hell out of each other and then sit in the box for 10 minutes and call it a game. It doesn't matter. Like, and they're taking away. They're calling the softest penalties. Like, oh, dude, you can't. Like, the world is soft enough as it is. You don't put it on the.
Don't respond yet?
No, not yet. We're still good. I'm still good. But you cannot tell me that it's taken away from the sport. Hockey is hard hitting. It's clean. Listen, if there's one sport that the players will hit each other hard and still follow the bro code, for you, if you will, lack of a better word, like they're going to follow that code. They're not going to hit you dirty. If they do hit you dirty, you're going to get beat up. The referees, they were calling, let them play. Woo!
Let the boys play.
Yeah, let's keep going too. I'm on a roll here, buddy.
The boys played. The cup's been hoisted. The hockey gods have spoken. Well, do you have anything else to get off your chest? I think you touched every base, checked every box. I think you covered the entire NHL Stanley Cup Finals as thorough as possible. But stay tuned, because we still have more big hit coming at you.
And finally, the NFL has come back to the big hit. I am joined here by Director Elliot Hicks, producer Joey Chrisman, myself, Hot Take Jake Taylor, to give you all things right, no things wrong, NFL analysis. Oh, it feels good to be back, boys, doesn't it?
Feels very good to be back.
It does. It feels good to be back, and it feels good to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. It does.
For now.
For now, yeah. But we'll start this segment off by our top 10 power rankings. I'm thinking we go from 10 to 5. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll go from 5 to 1. Okay. So, Elliot, you want to name your?
That works. All right, so my number 10 are the Cleveland Browns, sitting at 3-1. They've been very surprising. I think they may not be hot garbage this year. We'll have to wait and see. Number 9, I have the LA Rams. Still not quite where they should be. They are 3-1 right now. You think they'd be more dominant, especially after their Super Bowl run a few years ago, but they're doing all right. Number 8, the Indianapolis Colts. I didn't think Phillip Rivers had it in him, but Indy's got a pretty good team around him, so they're doing all right. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, Tom Brady still looks pretty good, and Tampa Bay will be a contender, especially with New Orleans being a little shaky. And at number 6, I have the Buffalo Bills at 4-0. Probably a little lower than most people would have them, because I'm still not all that high on the Bills right now, but I feel like I'm definitely underestimating them, and I'll get proven wrong at some point in this segment.
Okay. For my number 10, I have the New England Patriots. We all didn't know how it was going to go with Cam Newton, but so far they're 2-2 and looking pretty good. Number 9, I got New Orleans Saints. Even though Breeze is kind of an off season, I still think they're in playoff contention. For number 8, I have the Los Angeles Rams. They are looking way better than they did last season. I think they can make a run at the playoffs. Number 7, I got the Tennessee Titans. They are 3-0. While they may not look exactly like they did last year, they're still a pretty good team. And number 6, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, they are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're my favorite teams, but they only face the Giants, the Texans, and I'm blanking right now. What's the other team?
The Giants, the Texans. They're 0-9. They're combined.
Denver.
Denver
Broncos.
They versed those 3 teams, and those 3 teams are trash.
Yeah.
They have not versed a team that's above 500 yet. We have yet to see that. I will then, if depending on whether or not they beat them or not, I will move them up.
I agree. Coming in here with the power rankings, I thought we were going to be a little bit similar, but we're all way across the board because on my 10, you know what? I'm just going to say the Seattle Seahawks. I have Seahawks at 10 because I think Russell Wilson may be the best player in the league, but that defense is hot garbage. Listen, it's like you're not going to put Dallas in your top 10 because their defense stinks and they can't win games. Russell Wilson can take that defense, he can win games with it, but it's Russell Wilson. A team is not Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's the best player in the NFL, bar none. Can't deny that. That's why they're at 10 because I don't think as a team they're that deadly. Number 9, I also have New England. I have New England because they're 2-2. Very well could be 4-0. Usually New England does find a way to pull out those wins, and they haven't yet. I think they're just getting things started without Brady, but we know down the line when things come to matter, they're going to pull out those last-second wins. 8, I have the LA Rams. I think Sean McVay's never had a losing season. He's a fantastic coach. Can't look past coaching staff. I think Goff's a solid franchise quarterback. I think they have good defensive, high power. I mean, you have Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. They can make plays on the defensive side of the ball. Number 7, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills we all know what they're capable of. They have solid defense, great coaching staff as well, good offense. Stephon Diggs adds a whole new element to Josh Allen's game that is clear, which I'll get to later. But for now, we saw what happens to them every single time they go into the postseason. I can't be judging teams on the first 4 weeks off of previous postseasons, but I'm doing it anyway. So, at number 6, the New Orleans Saints, 2-2. That team is loaded on paper. That team is absolutely stacked. Michael Thomas going out, yeah, that kind of hurts, but he should not be the most valuable part of that team. Drew Brees is not playing very well. That defense should not be letting up so many points. They're loaded. So I just think the Saints are at 6 because on paper they're good, but execution poor. You want to take us with a 5 through 1?
5 to 1. First, I'll say you guys are a little too high on New Orleans. I think Drew Brees has officially lost his edge. The defense doesn't have enough to get them into the playoffs, especially with Tampa Bay doing as well as they have done. But my top 5, I have Baltimore at number 5. Obviously, they're going to be a contender. You can only say good things about their team right now, even though Lamar Jackson out of practice today because of a knee injury. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are 3-0, and they have played a lot of crummy teams, but Ben Roethlisberger is back. The defense is hot, at least most of the time, and they should be able to keep it up. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. We got to keep an eye on Mahomes after what just happened with Stephon Gilmore. That could be big trouble for Kansas City. But then again, he was out a couple of games last year, and they still won the Super Bowl. So maybe there won't be so much trouble in Kansas City. CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, has done very, very well at running back. KC is going to be in great shape to make another Super Bowl run. But I have 2 NFC teams in front of them. Green Bay is at number 2. They're unbeaten. And Aaron Rodgers is on the biggest revenge tour we've seen in a long time in the NFL. They drafted Jordan Love in the first round, and Aaron Rodgers is basically giving the proverbial middle finger of sorts to the Green Bay staff, saying, hey, I'm not done yet. We're going to go out there, and Rodgers is going to have a big shot at his second ring. That's if they can get past my number 1, the Seattle Seahawks. Their defense isn't perfect. They don't have a whole lot of offensive firepower, but Russell Wilson is having a phenomenal season. He can carry this team to the playoffs. And it's the star players that really show in the postseason. Seattle right now is my number 1.
That was pretty good. My number 5 is the Baltimore Ravens. Like you said, he was out with a knee injury, so I have to watch that. Number 4 is the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is playing like an MVP quarterback right now with Stephon Diggs. The defense is still as good as ever. Number 3 is Green Bay Packers. They are, like you said, on a revenge tour. Aaron Rodgers is acting like the old Aaron Rodgers, the MVP Aaron Rodgers, the Super Bowl quarterback Aaron Rodgers. And number 2, I will say this, the only reason I put this team at number 2 is because of their defense. Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson is no doubt the best quarterback, even player in the league right now. It's the defense for me that gives up so many yards and points a game. If the defense is a little bit better, I'd put them ahead of number 1, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. I still think they're the best team in the league. They're still a very hot Super Bowl contender. Yes, Mahomes had trouble with Stephon Gilmore, but then again, that was just one game. His defense is still very good. He still has Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Helaire. They're still a very, very good team. In my opinion, the best team in the NFL right now.
I like those picks. Elliot, we are very opposite there. My number 10, your number 1, but we're all similar here. Baltimore Ravens at number 5. They kind of fallen off here. I'll get to the Ravens later because I'm going to tear them into shreds. Number 4 is the Pittsburgh Steelers for that exact reason. Listen, the Steelers went 8-8 last year with a 4th-string quarterback. Well, the Steelers last year were lost to the Baltimore Ravens, who what 15-2 last year? Baltimore Ravens.
Something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, they lost to them in overtime. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks and Russell Wilson by 2. They took 6 turnovers to the eventual NFC Championship, San Francisco 49ers. They were in games with the heavy hitters in the NFL last year without Ben Roethlisberger. And Ben Roethlisberger, I don't care how old you think he is, he's the franchise quarterback. So I think with him in there, with a decent run game, dual-wheel running backs, definitely number 4, Pittsburgh Steelers. Just like that, my phone died. Don't call me an amateur because it's not amateur hour. Number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That defense for the Buccaneers, I think, is completely overshadowed by Tom Brady. They're, Tom Brady this, Tom Brady that. I don't care if it's a no-spit, no-loop, sandpaper finish. Tom Brady's not getting the job done as well as his defense has always had. His defense carried him to his last Super Bowl win, and this defense in Tampa Bay will carry him here. Number 2, the Green Bay Packers for that exact reason. I don't know if you've been watching Pat McAfee's show, but Aaron Rodgers comes on every Tuesday. I highly recommend it because he has great interviews. He turned a new leaf. He has humbled himself. He has a new outlook on life. And geez Louise, you heard what he said yesterday. You heard what he said yesterday on that show. A down year for me is a career year for most quarterbacks. So you see what he's doing right now, tearing it up, and without any weapons. And I still have number one, the defending Super Bowl champions, still undefeated this year. Any weapon they can beat you with, just like you mentioned, they were out Mahomes last year. They won every game without Mahomes. I'm pretty sure, didn't they? They did. They beat Green Bay Packers last year, I'm pretty sure, without Patrick Mahomes in there. However, they might have been back-to-back champs, minus that little offsides and overtime call against the Patriots, too. So I think this is really a dynasty we're looking for. Mahomes makes plays. That defense can make plays. You saw Matthew, a little fumble, right through Edelman's hands, but he still pick 6. Well, that was pretty good top 10 there, a little range differently. I like all the different takes. So
Hot take, we'll come back in February. None of the 10 teams on any of our rankings will be Super Bowl champs.
Exactly. That's usually how it works here on the Big Hit. All things right, no things wrong. Remember that. Biggest disappointment, surprise. So player, team, both, doesn't matter.
I gotta go over here. The Falcons. You choked twice, back to back. Are you kidding me? We thought you were over this in the Super Bowl. 28-3, then all of a sudden you choke against the freaking Bears and Cowboys? Are you serious? I mean, the Cowboys had like a squib onside on you and you just forgot how to play football. And then they drove the ball down the field to get a game-winning field goal. Are you kidding me? The fact that the coach is not fired right now blows my mind. Yeah. You saw what the Texans did. They fired Bill O'Brien. Why? Because they're 0-4. Granted, he was on the Texans for a lot longer than he should have. But the fact that the Falcons cannot get around and actually win a game when they've been so close, and they just choke. The team should not be able to choke more than once in the past 10 years unless something needs to be done to fix it. God.
Yeah, I agree.
So are we going both surprises and disappointments, or starting disappointments?
I guess we'll start with
surprises?
disappointments.
Okay. So I've got 2 disappointments and 4 surprises we'll get to later. My disappointments, 2 teams that Joey touched on: Houston Texans, Atlanta Falcons. Houston took the right step. They fired Bill O'Brien. They have way too much talent on that team, even with trading DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona. They've got way too much talent to be this bad. Deshaun Watson's a very good quarterback. They're a very good team, and they're taking the steps to get better, at least once they find their guy who isn't Romeo Crennel to be their interim head coach. I believe he's the oldest interim head coach in NFL history. You'll have to check me on that. And the Atlanta Falcons, they need to take that step. They need to fire Dan Quinn. I think Matt Ryan is probably done as a franchise quarterback, or at least Atlanta's franchise quarterback. They just need to hit the reset button. Julio Jones seems very injury prone now. I think that for those 2 guys alone, let alone the rest of the talent they have on that team, they can start a rebuild. They need to find their guy at head coach, whoever that is, even if they have to wait till after the season. It is time to blow it up in Atlanta.
I agree with Atlanta on both. Dan Quinn should have been fired after he blew a 28-3 lead, because you saw Kyle Shanahan left and he blew a lead in the Super Bowl last year, an offensive coordinator for that team. So a little bit common denominator there. I absolutely hate the Houston Texans and their disappointment. They've been a disappointment. Your disappointment, if you hire your head coach as a general manager, head coach, and play caller, you're idiots. Jabroni, Billy O. Stooge.
You're idiots if it doesn't work. If it
doesn't
works, you're brilliant, and that's how every team's doing it. But the fact that it didn't work and went horribly in Houston is why that happened.
Yeah. I have a bit of a different disappointment I have for team-wise the Los Angeles Chargers, solely because of injuries. They're out 11 would-be starters on that team, and that team should be very good. Justin Herbert's playing fantastic as a rookie, and I think that if they had a full squad, they had a full healthy defense, they have Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa on that pass rush. That's unreal. I think Derwin James is out, right? And you have Casey Hayward on the back end. Very solid roster. Austin Eckler just went down. Reset button, get him better like next year. My biggest disappointment is Lamar Jackson, mostly because he should have even been MVP. How is the quarterback the most valuable player on a team that broke the NFL record for most rushing yards in a single season? Riddle me that.
He's a running back.
Yeah, he's a running back that throws the ball. Riddle me that. I don't get it. Right now, Lamar Jackson, he's the 31st passing offense, Baltimore Ravens are. They're the 7th overall offense, 3rd rushing offense. Those running backs are loaded they have in the backfield there. He is 14th in completion percentage, 27th out of quarterbacks in passing yards, 14th in touchdowns, 6th in quarterback and passer rating. 8th in QBR. They play the 7th, 14th, 26th, and 23rd ranked defenses in the NFL right now. I just don't think Lamar Jackson. What are we saying? We're talking about Wilson's consistent, best quarterback in the league. Aaron Rodgers consistent. Mahomes is consistent. Brady's consistent. What are you doing, Lamar? Come on, it's time to you don't shine in big moments. I think it's just disappointment.
When you take a look at quarterbacks who actually do run, like Josh Allen runs, Russell Wilson runs, but the fact is they can throw the ball too.
Exactly.
When you take, when Lamar Jackson versus Kansas City, he literally crapped the bed, stopped throwing the ball, and just started running the whole entire time. Yeah, you can run, but you can't be a quarterback in this league if you cannot throw the ball. And when he, like you said, he comes in the big moments, he can't throw the ball. And if you can't throw the ball, you're not going to win. And that's the bottom line. That's what makes a difference between him and Russell Wilson, him and Josh Allen. He's not as good as he was last year. I don't think he was even that good last year. He was flashy. That's literally it. That's what made him MVP. He was flashy. He wasn't he broke the rushing record for the most rushing yards in a season by a quarterback. But beside that, what?
Yeah.
He was just flashy. That's it.
I think he also benefited greatly last season from having zero competition in the AFC North. All three of those teams improved this season, whether it's players coming back from injuries or drafting a guy like Joe Burrow. He's got more competition there this year, so it's not going to come as easy for Lamar Jackson.
That's a great point, Ellie. And I think John Harbaugh, Coach of the Year last year, I think John Harbaugh was more important to the Baltimore success than Lamar Jackson is. For instance, I think Russell Wilson's more important to Seattle's success than Pete Carroll, if that makes any sense. That scheme that Harbaugh made last year, that was revolutionary. Teams obviously watch film on it. They're shutting it down a little bit. So
John Harbaugh's not really an offensive coach. He's more of a defensive special teams guy.
So we'll go surprises.
So I lied. I only have 3 surprises. I think I said I had 4. One of them is New England. I kind of thought that they would flop, whether they started Newton or Jarrett Stidham or whoever they were going to start there. I thought that Belichick was going to fail without a guy like Tom Brady, but Cam Newton has come back with a vengeance. We hope that he gets well and healthy again soon to get back out there and start really playing well. As much as I hate to see New England win, I think that it is pretty nifty to see Belichick doing it without Tom Brady, even though I still kind of hate the Patriots. Second surprise are the Cleveland Browns. They may actually be good finally. Baker Mayfield doesn't look like complete crap. Odell Beckham Jr. is really heating up, and I think he's going to start to become the guy again in Cleveland, just like he was in New York. And the Indianapolis Colts are my third surprise. Again, like I said in the power rankings, I kind of thought Phillip Rivers was done, but he's done well enough to hold up for a team that has a good bit of talent.
I mean, I have one surprise, and that is the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they were good last year, but now it seems like this year they're on a whole nother level. With Alan Lazard, with Devontae Adams, with their defense playing very, very well. I honestly think that they are possibly, like the power ranking said, one of the best teams in the league. And the fact that they brought the game to a whole nother level is blows my mind.
So, other than that, I think that was a pretty good first NFL segment, knocking the rust off, a little rusty trombone. So, Elliot Hicks, Joey Christman, Jake Taylor, stay tuned to the big hit.
Welcome back to The Big Hit. My name is Elliot Hicks, and we're here today to talk about some Major League Baseball with Tyann Bell and Kyle Scott. So we're into the postseason now in this very strange, very weird MLB season. But first, we'll talk about the New York Mets. Obviously, you both are very big Mets fans. They had a lot of talent on their roster, but they weren't able to make the postseason. What's your take on the year, and what's your take on the future for the team? Kyle, I'll start with you.
Well, this year has been supremely disappointing. The Mets were supposed to be kind of a big threat going into this season back at the end of 2019. The Mets were poised to take the division with a healthy Syndergaard, Stroman, Matz, all that. The pieces were together, and in typical Mets fashion, everything fell apart almost immediately after the start of the season. Yoenis Cespedes left. Stroman left. Everyone decided they couldn't hit. The Mets are just kind of always a disappointing team, so I'm not surprised, but I am still kind of really upset about it. The future, though, is pretty nice. There are some good call-ups. The shortstop, I can't remember his name, Jimenez. So things aren't looking too bad. Cohen bought the team, so there are worse times to be a Mets fan.
Yeah, from what he said with the billionaire Steve Cohen purchasing the team, that's props. They have a nice core of young talent to build around the offseason. 2 of their start pitchers, Syndergaard and Stroman, clearly missed the whole season, so that was bad. They have the best pitcher in all of baseball, DeGrom, and we have some good young hitters, which is a props. We had a few free agents, and they'll be ready for a playoff push next season.
All right, so of the teams that did make the playoffs, it was an expanded postseason this year. What's the playoff series in the opening round you're most looking forward to? I'll start with you this time, Tyann.
I'm actually looking forward to the Twins and the Astros. I think it'll be a good series. The Astros are trying to prove that they can win it without cheating, and the Twins are loaded with power hitters.
Yeah, that'll be a good series. I am interested in an AL series as well. The Athletics and the White Sox. Those are two teams I think that are really fun to watch. The White Sox, obviously, really young and fun and dynamic, but the A's really want to prove it because they keep getting kicked out of the wild card round every time. So they've got something to fight for.
All right, of the teams who made the playoffs, who are you most surprised made it in?
Well, for me, a bunch of the NL teams that made it are kind of weird. The Marlins are in it somehow, the Cardinals, and the Brewers. The Cardinals and the Marlins lost 15 games each, about. So them in the postseason is surprising. I don't think anyone thought that when COVID first struck them. But and the Brewers, I thought they were way worse than they are. So
I'm also surprised with the Miami Marlins. They have the lowest payroll in the league and a very young team, but they probably benefited the most from having the short season.
I agree. I don't know how in the world Miami managed to make the playoffs, so I'll sympathize with you there. The rest of the teams who are in the playoffs, who do you think is going to be the most surprising, not including the teams you just mentioned? Who's going to be slept on, basically?
I think a lot of people aren't really thinking about the Cincinnati Reds right now because they're playing the Braves and they're at the bottom of the brackets that I looked at, and I thought, oh yeah, the Reds. So I think everyone else isn't thinking about the Reds either.
Yeah, I think Cleveland is a 4 seed. They have a pitching and hitting to surprise some teams.
All right, last question for this segment. Give me your World Series predictions. Tyann, we'll start with you.
I think the Dodgers look primed to win it all. They have been there in the last couple of years and lost, but this year I feel like they're going to get it done. But the Tampa Rays will put on a fight, but the LA Dodgers, well, they're just too loaded up all around.
Ooh, Tampa and LA that's kind of the easy matchup, I think. Not that it's probably the most obvious because that's the most likely. I would like to see the White Sox, maybe the Cubs. That'd be crazy, right? The Cubs and the White Sox, that's never going to happen. But maybe a rematch of 2016 is possible as well. So there's some cool matchups, but most likely it's probably Tampa and the Dodgers.
All right, we'll have to see who comes out on top in the Major League Baseball postseason. Thanks for tuning into The Big Hit this week. For Kyle Scott, Tyann Bell, and everyone else who was on The Big Hit this week, my name's Elliot Hicks. Be sure to tune in next week.